Welcome back, Arcadians. Alex here with another video. Now, recently a family in York reached out to the arcade community because their beloved father Mark had recently passed away. Mark was an operator in the surrounding area and he supplied machines, fixed machines, and he even created his own universal cabinet way before Jammer even came along. So the family have been left with a barn filled with parts, monitors, arcade machines and a lifetime's worth of collecting. So in this week's episode we are going to travel to York, meet Mark's family in the hope that we can salvage a lot of these machines and put them back into the retro gaming community. But we've been informed that parts of the barn is in poor disrepair, so really don't know what to expect, but we've heard it is filled with games. So let's hit the road, meet up with my good friend Tony Temple, who's going to give me a lift and just see what we can find. Now, before I start my journey, I just want to make sure I've got the right kit. So I've brought some small tools, some dust suits, dust masks, because you don't want to be breathing in anything nasty if this stuff hasn't been disturbed for a while. Some gloves, always handy for moving cabinets around. Disposable shoes, could come in handy if it's a wet floor. And a head torch, which is always handy for looking around in the dark with your hands free. I have the luxury on this occasion of actually getting a lift from my good friend and world champion at Missile Command, Mr. Tony Temple. So I should be in good hands, right? Right?
Mornings like this, it's freezing cold, it's almost December, and we're driving several hundred miles to go and pull dirty arcade cabinets out of a warehouse. It's like times like this you wonder what we're doing and what sort of hobby we get involved with, but yeah, it's all good, isn't it? It's these days it's nice to find a stash of arcade machines, so it's a rare occurrence in our hobby, so you know, to have the opportunity to get involved and to pull these things out and to help the family involved, it's, you know, and get these cabinets back out into the community. I think it's a good thing.
Me and Tony did most of the travelling the day before, and on arriving at the hut, I don't think we could have picked a better day, especially after all the rain we've been having. It was the most beautiful of mornings. On arrival, I got a real sense of the size of the barn and its location. And once everybody had arrived, we were introduced to Mark's daughter, Lauren.
Yeah, so here we are at Sunnymead and what we call the hut, where all Dad's workshops and the arcades were in. And basically the main one I probably remember would be sitting with my sister on point blank, you know, shooting as much as we can. You get that one, you get that one, you get that one. And as soon as Dad had got the next new one he wanted to test, we'd go out, put a new PCB in a machine, and he'd put loads of credits on, and he'd leave us to test them whilst he set another one up and everything. So yeah, it was just the best time ever. We loved him so much.
And Drew, who was a long-time family member who spent many a summer holiday at this location playing all the latest arcade games. So he was keen to give us a tour, to show us what to expect, but also give us a little bit of a history of Mark's business.
So, this it was open actually originally, but they closed it up and they used it to manufacture machines, hence why there's a big table saw there, a big saw bench. And
so he manufactured
yeah,
his own cabinets.
I'll show you that, and I can show you all. They're amazing, actually. These are, I guarantee, the best put together cabinets you've ever seen. So this used to be the office, right? You won't believe it. We have tidied this.
Wow.
So this was the office. These are the cabinets. They made a few hundred of these.
Yeah.
People.
And they were distributed all around UK.
All around York, really, in Yorkshire. They did all the naffies and things like the universities and stuff like that. Right. That's where most of them went. But these were built, I think Mark built these originally and designed them because they were getting them kicked in.
Right.
So he wanted to build something that you couldn't break. which is going to be a problem if we have to put any of them in the skip.
Yeah.
Because they are tough. And I'll tell you what, they're so accurate. I was saying this. I want to say it to you, Tony. I took the doors off the back of them because I popped some monitors in because some of them didn't have monitors in, and I put the wrong doors on the machines that they weren't for.
And they all
fit
perfect.
with a less than a millimetre gap.
Amazing.
Wow.
Unbelievably accurate.
Yeah.
When they built these cabinets, we wanted to obviously, the guys wanted to, manufacture them as quickly and as easily as possible and be exactly the same. So they built all these patterns, and effectively all you do is you just run a router around it and cut the panels out, and they're all identical then. And then the big stuff gets cut up on the big saw bench, and it works obviously really well because they made hundreds of them.
Automatic Services was established in 1962 by Mark's father, and it was mainly servicing and operating machines on location like penny pushers, pinball and jukeboxes. But when the video game market took off, they made and created 350 of these cabinets and distributed them around the surrounding area. But what's interesting is the cabinets that Mark made was that they were all universal, so you could easily swap the games in and out when one game became less profitable. This was way before Jammer even existed. Very clever stuff.
This is the workshop. And that's where they used to get prepped before they went out.
Wow.
That's where the bulk of the jammers are.
Yeah.
When it was huts back in the day, there were like a conservatory on the back there, and it was built out of table football and pinball glasses.
Wow. Wow. So it was just arcade machines he built, or was it?
He only built arcade machines, but they operated jukeboxes, obviously bandits, gambling machines, pins, table football, pool tables.
Yeah.
All vending stuff, really. I remember Missile Command coming in and being just next to that, just behind where that Daytona is.
Yeah.
And it was exciting because the thing is, because obviously the internet didn't exist, you didn't get like a preview of anything before you turned it on. So your first time you saw it, either you saw it in coin slot or you turned it on and that was the first time you saw the game.
Yeah,
so,
and it was exciting times back then.
Unbelievable.
For all of us.
How technology changed from that point, it must have been the most pivotal point. Well, I think it's probably certainly for me, the most pivotal point in technology, really.
Once Drew had shown us all around, me and Ollie took this opportunity to have a look around ourselves just to see what else there was of further interest. And here we have, which looks like a homemade MVS cabinet.
That is actually a
Europa
coin. Yeah, so they were next to Electrocoin on the Cottenham Talk
Oh,
Road?
were they?
I think they were, yeah.
And then more Jarrah cabs, got a RAM part. Needs a lot of work. I love that game. I used to love that on the Super Nintendo. Great game. Sega Megatech. Whilst looking around this room, I managed to catch up with a long-time family friend and ex-employee, Mike, who had some really interesting stories from back in the day.
They converted some of the older ones, some of the like Nintendos, got converted to like newer games and things like that. The machines got converted. Some of the like cocktail tables, changed the games in those as well. So it was all of that sort of thing.
Just to make more money.
It was really, there was good times with it, but then it kind of certain things, maybe the home
computers
and things like that. Then it just kind of maybe dropped off a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You had to be kind of cutting edge maybe and things like that a bit later.
Now guys, there are lots of arcade machines in here, but a lot of it we can't get to until we move stuff out. And having seen most of the bar now, there was one room left yet to explore, but this room was like a cavern. It was wet, the roof had all caved in, and really we needed to get suited and booted up with masks, torches and everything before we could even venture into this room, because it was that bad. I'm going to let you get a feel for the atmosphere now, because walking into this room for the first time was unbelievable. I mean, just the smell of the mould and the damp in the air. I'm just so glad we had masks on, because it was really overbearing. But everywhere you look, there were cabinets, there were monitors, and the crunch under your feet, which I thought was glass at first. And when you look down, it's PCBs and joysticks. It's like, oh my God. What happened here?
Start over here.
Yeah.
Pins. So there's monitors everywhere. And over here.
Some lovely pins over here.
When they were new.
Speakers.
Yeah. See, that one looks all right.
Well, gardener there. Oh, there's a centaur.
Well, we know what it is.
There's also
A Sega dunk shot that looks like that's. I think that's
a
savable.
World Rally top. It's all soaking wet in there. What's
That's the
the
Hulk.
The Hulk, and then we've got what?
I didn't know what that one was, but it's a
Two
Hulk
Hulks.
and I think that's just a head.
topper. Yeah.
And that's the Space Invaders. That is a Space
The
Invaders.
centaur is just covered in tokens. Look. Covered in tokens. And then just monitors after monitor after monitor. Look, what a shame.
Yeah, but look, see, some of them.
Some of them are salvageable.
Some of them are salvageable. That's
Some
why
of this is a little bit drier.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over the other side.
I think this room is super cool. It would have been super cooler before it got wet. All the ones that there's some that are salvageable, you know.
Brilliant.
I think, yeah, that'd be great.
So we've got. Is she beautiful? So once we'd explored the left-hand side of the room, which was filled to the ceiling with monitors, and I'm really hoping we can salvage a lot of those. Not quite sure about the pinballs, but the right-hand side of the room, I started to see glimpses of dedicated arcade machines like the Invaders, and there was a stack of cocktail machines, which I'm really interested in. We've got two moon crystals. Probably interesting one of them.
2 moon
Neighbours.
Missile command.
Buttons are not really nice, but
Pulsar or something, sub-electro.
looks like that one's missing a monitor at all. No monitor. None of them have got monitors in. Now the really fun part to all of this is actually guessing the game, because a lot of these cocktails were converted, so you didn't really know what was inside a lot of these machines. So that was the really exciting part.
It's got phases. Fine sources. Oh, it's ship will now send its Century. What's the shooter?
Pleiades of Phoenix.
No, Century shooter where you got a Vanguard.
Oh wow, what a cool game.
I think.
Vanguard's a cool game.
Oh, Tony, who has been my wingman so far, has disappeared and abandoned me. Where have you gone, Tony? He's obviously found something of interest. We could do with one.
Galaxy, is it? Quasar.
Quasar.
Quasar, yeah. These are really nice because these illuminate, so it illuminates the... Yeah. But it's a bit of a mould trap.
Yeah. This room was huge, guys, and to get anywhere in this room, you literally had to climb over everything. But then suddenly we got glimpses of some real classics. I'm just hoping we can salvage some of these because they are so cool. We've got a Williams Defender here from 1980, one of my favourite games. And then the most desirable Atari Star Wars, a vector game from 1983. But before we even think of moving these, we've got so much more stuff to get out of the way.
Let's see where I'm going.
Football champ. Yeah, football champ.
Yeah.
But it's got an adapter on it, which is handy.
Tony's being a real trooper here and he's getting really stuck in. He's managed to find under some collapsed shelving a whole stash of PCBs.
Oh, I mean, it's full. These are all the. This is where all the boards were. I mean, it's we cut. Look at the Star Wars, mate.
I know. I'd like just the side art.
Yeah. You're on T-moulding, look. In the old stock T-moulding.
There's a lovely jukebox here, Olive.
Is there?
Like the one out there, yeah. Beautiful.
What, the same one? Oh, wow, yeah. Holy crap. Oh, wow, yeah, it is.
It's a lovely one, isn't it? And the PCBs just kept on coming. There wasn't one stone unturned. The more we looked, the more we found.
Well, about pencil. Jeez, even more.
After a few hours of moving cabinets out the way and trying to salvage as many parts and PCBs as we could, we finally get a glimpse of the Star Wars cabinet, and it's not in a good way, guys. It's really sad to see, but we're going to try and salvage as much as we can off this.
Need a spade.
There's some over here.
I'll take it. Ooh. Star Wars is. Star Wars has got a new position. Is it the floor wonky or is it the cab? Can we just have a moment?
Yeah. That's our childhood right there, and probably for Mark his pride and joy, and two games that probably made him a lot of money back in the day because they were very popular. But all is not lost. We are going to at least try and save something off these cabinets. Oh. Oh.
Anybody want a coin job?
Actually,
That's worthy of an Instagram post. A picture of that.
Oh, the panel and everything. Wow.
This is a real surgical operation to try and remove the colour vector monitor from the Star Wars cabinet, and it takes 4 of us to try and get it out without damaging it. But you know, it's something definitely worth saving.
Just the earth, isn't it?
it's not part of the minute. Anyway,
Ready?
no, it's not. It's not part of the minute.
Go on. Ready? 3, 2, 1. That'll be well. That'll be.
After spending all morning rummaging through this building, we finally knew exactly what we were going to take home and how much we could actually save. So the boys outside started to get ready with the vans, and they started to lay down some ply because the ground was so sodden and wet. We didn't want to get bogged down with the sack trucks moving all these cabinets out. But now you can finally see exactly what we've actually saved, because there's some real gems here. One of the first games out of the door is Sega's Virtual Striker from 1994. Now, this was also one of the first games to use the new 3D computer graphics with the early use of texture mapping, along with Sega's very own racing game, which we all remember fondly, Daytona USA. And another game by Sega using exactly the same hardware, the AM2. It is Sega's Virtual Cop, and this cabinet is in fantastic condition. Now, I'm not a huge fan of light gun games, but this one is pretty cool, and it stays faithful to the film, which I absolutely love. I've got fond memories of going to see Judgment Day on the big screen in Leicester Square with my little brother. And this game actually was pretty cool as well, because it had the new photorealistic digitalised graphics, and it's pretty faithful to the movie, which I absolutely love. So this is a really cool find. Now here's an interesting cabinet I haven't seen in years. I used to love this game in the arcade and on my Super Nintendo. It is Namco's Suzuka 8 Hours from 1992. A fantastic motorcycle racing game where you go head to head with the other bike. It's absolutely brilliant. I loved this in the arcade, loved it on the Super Nintendo, and being a huge motorcycle fan, this was right up my street.
Used to come in next to.
Oh, you look really cool.
Oh, I used to ride bikes.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. You look like an expert.
Trying to get the knee bit.
I've been trying to get my knee up.
It's cool, isn't it? I can't believe it. I've just said to you I'm not a huge light gun fan, and they pull out probably one of the best light gun games ever made. It is Point Blank by Namco. This is a fantastic 2-player game, kind of like a time-based target shooter. But just look at the side art on this cabinet. For a later arcade game, they really went to town with this. It looks fantastic.
The amount of machines that you know that's gone through these premises is ridiculous.
And the amount of kids they've entertained
Yeah,
over the
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a piece of social history.
It's a huge piece of social history. It's amazing.
It is incredible what we've seen here, and it is all part of our social history, and this all will be preserved, and hopefully it will all go back into the retro community. But it's the stories and the memories that you don't see that I find just as fascinating.
Well, our favourite was our little crystal maze as well. Watching that ball, go, 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 go. So we loved our crystal maze.
Oh, excellent. Lauren's favourite game was called Crystal Maze, and we desperately tried to save it, but unfortunately it was waterlogged, and when we tried to move it, it literally just fell apart. If we turn on its side,
We can restore that. We can restore that.
Everything's repairable.
I think from everything that we've pulled out of the hut, the most well preserved are Mark's Universal cabinets. But I think that's partly down to their build quality. I mean, they're just so well made. I can't wait to see these up and running again. There were lots of other miscellaneous parts that we pulled out from the hut as well. Lots of records from that era, monitors, laserdisc players, and even test equipment. What have you got there?
So it's an Evo 8. These were they're a multimeter basically, but these are they were kind of the Rolls Royce of multimeters back in the day. Every TV engineer kind of had one of these on the bench, and they were quite, you know, people were really quite well sought out and sought after. They were very expensive back in the day, but they're very accurate. Design haven't changed for a lot of years. I still think they're probably quite well sought after because they're absolutely superb. But for fixing CRTs, they were brilliant.
Fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant.
We found hundreds of PCBs in the hut, and they all got shared out evenly between us. We found really rare games like Atari's Food Fight. We found a Nemesis board, as well as the more common games you would expect from a business like this, like Galaxians, Pac-Mans, you know, all of that kind of stuff. But there was a few boards that we didn't know what they were. This board in particular is on Konami hardware, but it's got the ROM set of Zelic and Zenatone, which is a British company that later went on to become Ultimate and then Rare. Now, Gav has got his retro chip tester, which he can cross-reference with the ROM dumps in MAME to see what game it is. And it turns out that this game is just some weird quiz game that none of us have ever heard of, but it's still really interesting to see what these games are. After 2 solid days of salvaging as much as we could possibly take home, it was time to call it a day as the night was drawing in. Lauren and her family kindly bought us all a cheeky McDonald's, which was much appreciated by all. It was lovely that everyone was happy with what they took home, but more importantly, that Lauren was happy with what we had achieved with helping move her father's collection back into the community where it would be played again by many, which is what I hope Mark would have liked to have seen with his collection at the end of the day.
Oh, I think the last 20, 30 years knowing it's sat here, locked up, untouched, made us really sad, and finding new guys and finding these homes for them and knowing they're going to be played is just the best thing ever. Losing Dad is devastating, and we only wish that we could do this with him. But knowing these are going back out in the world and they're going to be enjoyed again is really amazing.
Now, before we go, I just want to say on behalf of everyone that attended that weekend, our heart goes out to Lauren and her family, because this was done under very difficult circumstances. Having been through exactly the same thing with my father's collection a couple of years ago, it is not easy. And this was an extremely difficult film to edit for me, having met Lauren and the family, and they were absolutely amazing having to deal with all this, and us. But, you know, hopefully Mark's legacy will live on through this video, through the games, because we're going to get a lot of the games working at the Arcade Archive. I know John's going to get his working at the Pixel Bunker. We're going to put stickers on the back with the automatic services, so his legacy lives on. So to round it up, if you want to follow more of this road trip, see more pictures, you can follow Tony's blog, the Arcade Blogger. I'll put a link in the description below. But that's it for this week, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.